Hey guys, it's Moffatt from the Disciples. Today here I'm presenting you a branded Despia deck, including the structure deck cards that are coming out shortly. So hopefully this will help everyone trying to prepare a list for those wanting to play the deck. Personally, I'm really looking forward to it. It seems like a lot of fun. I imagine the mirrors are going to be fairly intense due to some of the cards here. You can see that you'll be able to play in these mirrors. So this is a pure version of the deck, so that includes no brave or adventurer cards. This does what I think make it a bit more consistent, as you're able to play more cards that can get your engine going from a normal summon. And if you can't afford the brave cards, then this is good, although I guess the Lubers aren't the cheapest right now. And it is 40 cards, unlike the 60 card piles you've seen on the channel recently. So let's get straight into it. Starting off, we have the free Lubers. So in the brave version, you'll probably see two of these being played, but in the pure version, we can go ahead and play all three of them. So this is kind of, I guess, one of the main starters. There's lots of normal summon starters that do search you branded fusion, which is really your most important card in this deck going forward. So obviously on the normal and special summon you can add that. It does have the grave effect where it can revive if your fusion monster does leave the field, but you can only use one of the two effects per turn. Then next we have one of the new cards, so excuse these proxies. Like I said, at the time of recording, the deck isn't out yet, so I don't have the new cards in person, so we'll just have to deal with these scuffed proxies. But either way, so this is Spriggans Kit. So it's essentially B-Tech Luber, as I like to call her. So on normal or special summon, it does add the branded card, but you do have to put a card to the bottom of your deck. So it's just another way to get your engine going. You do lose out on the card, which is why it's B-Tech Luber, but like I said, you want to have as many starters as possible. And then we have onto the other Despia cards. So we have 2 Tragedy. So this is still really important in the deck with the newer cards. You want to be sending this off brand infusion so you can get your pluses going. I like to have 2 so you can kind of still plus if you draw it. You can make plays by just drawing this with the length and then the brand in the red if you open it. It's just good to have 2 around so you're not just relying on circulating the 1. And then for the other Despia cards, so we have 1 of each of the big guys that were played before. So this guy is, he's 3k, big body, kind of negate that summons itself back when it's fusion summoned. And then this guy is even stronger now with the main play, which will be shown later. So on fusion, he does allow you to summon back a Despia or a fusion monster that's in the graveyard or banished. So you'll see shortly how important this comes up. And then for the Albaz cards, obviously 1 Fall of Albaz that you can play 2. He's okay now because you have a lot of fusion monsters to summon with him, but still he's not really the normal summon you want to be, normal summoning at the end of the day. And then this is an interesting choice here. So this is the Albion shrouded dragon. So what they do is in hand or grave you can activate it. And then you can shuffle it to the bottom of your deck and also send a branded spell or trap from your hand or your deck to the graveyard. If it was in your hand at the time, you can draw a card. So it's kind of like Upstart and you get a foolish branded spell or trap. There is a combo that comes up with this, which is fairly decent to be honest. And it does act as Fallen Valbaz on field or grave, which can come up. Then onto the hand traps. So it's 40 cards, but we're able to play a fair amount of hand traps because of the it's just not one of these 60 card power decks. So we have 3 Ogre, 3 Ash, 3 Nib, and then 3 Imperm. So 12 hand traps in 40, which is fairly decent. Like I said, the engine count isn't too high, so it does give us room to play a good amount of these hand traps. And I feel like these are probably the strongest and most generic, especially post structure deck. I guess Veiler would be the next card I choose to play if I had space. Then we have the spell cards, so the new best card in the deck. We have the branded fusions. Fusioning from deck has always been extremely strong, and it doesn't change with this card. You ash this and it does stop a lot of your plays for this. But yeah, they're extremely strong card in the deck. Most of your cards are kind of getting to this card. Then you have, again, what I was just describing is ways to get to this card. So the branded opening, get to Luber, get to this card. Again, you do lose a card, so it's not the best card you want to open if it's just the only one you have, but the engrave effect to protect is fairly useful and it will definitely come up in those grindier games. Then more of the branded cards. So we have the branded in red. Again, this is one of your best cards to be interrupting them on their turn, to add back and then fusion by banishing. The best way to go into guarding Camaro in their turn to, pop and also draw cards. And yeah, the quick play effect, you can kind of make plays, if you're trying to dodge an Imperm or Veiler. It does come up in those more interactive games. And I only played 2. You were playing 3, I guess, before, but I don't think it's a card that you need to open. You have so many ways to search it now that it's more of a 2 of, I would say. Then another one of the newer cards is the Paradise branded. So this thing does a few things. So basically, it's basically Magical Meltdown for branded. So they can't solemn warning your fusion spell or any form of negate that works the same way as that. On summon, they can't respond to it, so you can, you don't have to worry about your Lubellions getting hit by Veilers or Imperms, that kind of stuff. And then the third effect is if you do fusion summon, you can add a monster that lists Fallen of Albers, I believe, in the text, which is the reason we're playing. Where is it? This guy here. So when you fusion summon, you add this guy, and then you can use this effect. So we'll have a combo video coming up soon where I'll show you how this interaction works, and it does feel very plus, and you can keep doing it every time you fuse. So they kind of have to deal with this card if they want to stop that recurrence. And then for the, I guess, consistent card, we have the Prosperities. So this is definitely a deck that can afford to play them with the amount of extra deck space you kind of have. A lot of 3-ofs, and a lot of 2-ofs, and there's not really any draw cards you have, so you're not really conflicting with that part at all, apart from, I guess, Camaro, but you're probably not going to be, most of the time, I guess, at least on turn 1, that's never going to be conflicting. And then, like I said, Brand of Fusion getting hit does hurt, so let's hope we draw the call by, just to make sure your players go through consistently. And then for the trap cards, so obviously apart from the Imperms, we have a couple of the new branded ones, starting with the Branded Exile. So this card is basically a reborn for your your level 8 or higher fusion monsters or Despia monsters, and then it's basically super Poli by banishing. So it's a good card to search if you already have your branded in red, and it's basically just another form of interaction on their turn. It's definitely a card that will catch people off guard. You don't even have to use the monster that you summon back. So it can be a big blowout card. And then this card is the counter trap, so the branded Condemnation. Who knows if that's the TCG name. So this is basically, to be honest, I'm not going to lie, the first effect I'm not too know. It's the second effect that is relevant. So if it's in the grave, you can banish it. So it'll add a branded spell or trap to your field or hand. It's a good way to basically pass, and there's a certain way to send this into the graveyard. Again, look out for the combo video coming up soon. I'll show you how this card is used. So onto extra deck. Starters, we have Lubellion. So this is, again, one of your main starters. This is probably what you're going to be summoning off Brand of Fusion a lot of the time. So one summon, you discard a card for cost, and you fusion from the extra deck by returning monsters from your field, grave, or face up banished. So again, you do the worst thing about this deck is the kind of loss of card that you have from this, or opening, or Kit Spriggans, or potentially 2 or 3 of those in the same turn. But it does have such a crazy engine once it gets going. It just keeps going with the recurrence. So if this guy resolves, you're probably going to be good. So this is like I said, the main card you summon off fusion. But the main card then you summon off this most of the time is going to be your Mirror Jades. So these is really like the heart and soul of the extra deck. It's basically the non-target banish by sending a card from your extra deck to the graveyard. And then if it does leave the field, you can activate the effect. So it will destroy all of your opponent's monsters in the end phase. So, pretty good boss monster, all things considered. Can only control 1. When you do use the banish effect, you can't use it with the same card. That's very important, the same card, until the next turn. You can't use it the next turn if you use it in the turn that you're in. But there are ways to get around that, again, which will be shown in the combo video. Speaking of a card that you send from Mirror Jade's effect, most of the time it's going to be Albion. So I do play free, so you have that resource in your extra deck. And obviously, you can be summoning this off Brand of Fusion or your other cards to kind of keep it going, keep your engine going from your graveyard. So on summon, this does banish from graveyard or field, I believe, or hand, field, or graveyard, sorry, to fusion. So in this build, I'm not playing the the kind of SHADOLL or Dragoon version, so you're not summoning this off Brand of Fusion in your opening plays. But like I said, it's a good card kind of to follow up and make use of your grave resources. And like I said, the main interaction is going to be summoning it off the Mirror Jade, sorry, sending it off the Mirror Jade, which is why I want to play free. And then your main interruption alongside Mirror Jade is going to be your Camaros. So you'd be summoning this off branded and red in their turn. Like I said, either drawing 2, popping 1, or popping 2, drawing 1. You're not playing Poli, so the on-target part doesn't come up, but it's big body, big threat in general. Then for the remaining kind of Despia fusions, so we play one of the Masquerade and then one of the Quarteris. So these are just kind of generic Despia fusion monsters to have in your extra deck for for the branded exile, the Super Poli in their turn. Just gives you more options to summon stuff. So this is just the burn stuff, and it does have the grave effect where it will summon itself back if your opponent controls an extra deck monster. And this is basically just the attack modulator ones that just can, utility that can come up in certain situations. This card is out now. I just don't have one at the moment. And then just useful kind of link monsters, even though Brand of Fusion does lock you into fusions for the whole turn. We have the Link Karibo and the Verti Anaconda. Link Karibo for if you need to get the level 1 Despia monster, the, what do you call it, Tragedy into graveyard, so you can then, brand it and read it away or something like that. Just quite handy. And the Verte for those kind of weird hands where you just need to get to the Brand of Fusion. It's not as important, but it's just, like I said, lots of extra deck space in this pure build. So it is something that can come up in certain games. And then last, another kind of generic fusion, we have the Predator Plant. So with DPE, for instance, it's always going to be good to summon this guy, especially with your Brand Exile, your Super Polis that exist in the side deck. So speaking of side deck, a card that's going to be very interesting in this format is obviously going to be Super Poli. So with the amount of fusion summoning that's going on with this deck, and like I said, the DP decks, this card is going to be very relevant going forward. So good to have in the mirror. It's definitely going to be a mirror defining card going forward. So definitely want to max out these on the side at least. And then other kind of generic hand traps, I guess you could say, for more combo decks. You've got the Drolls and you've got the Gammas. Both of them are going to be hitting pretty hard in the relevant matchups that you're siding them in. Like I said, you can fit a fair amount of hand traps in here, so you can put these in for less relevant ones in certain matchups. And then for the kind of back row decks, you've got the Duster, the Pancratops, and then kind of the Free Twins. So these are just kind of generic kind of back row hate. And obviously this card isn't too bad to win this against a lot of decks going second by itself. But yeah, that's the deck. So like I said, I'm really looking forward to it coming out. I think it's going to be a really fun deck to play. I think it's going to be the kind of deck where if you practice it and get decent at it, you'll definitely be rewarded because there's lots of unique interactions it has, and I think it will do well. Probably not going to be the best deck in terms of like a tier 0 format, but I think it definitely has a good chance to contend against the other decks. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe. Send us a comment if you want. Any opinions on the deck, let me know. Otherwise, shout out to our sponsors, MetaMat, Brotherhood Games, Card Market. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.